today to just talk to Bill and Carol Vander Yacht and hear some stories in their life, as well as to focus on the Carol's coffee cup that was such a big part of the community.
Well, we both were born in this county. I was born in Bellingham, and then lived on the Mosquito. Well, we lived on the Mosquito Lake Road till I was or the Mount Baker Highway till I was 4 years old, and moved to the Mosquito Lake Road where I grew up. And I was from a logging family, and all my family was loggers. I mean, my dad and my brother and my two brothers-in-law were Bull of the Woods. So, we've been here our whole lives and know a lot of people. So, and Bill you tell them where you were born.
I was born in Custer, that's out west of Ferndale, in 1924. And Dad he was a farmer, dairy farmer. He didn't own a farm. In those days, there wasn't much money around, so we moved around Whatcom County for, I don't know, about 10 or 12 times, I guess. Lived for, about the most we've lived any place was, I think, 5 years. Move all the cattle to the next place. And it was kind of, well, I was just a kid, so I didn't have what to do about that. Then we ended up, we lived on the Mosquito Lake Road. That's where I met Carol. So I had to pick her up and take her home. I'm glad I did. And
we just celebrated our 70th wedding anniversary, so it's been a good ride.
That's awesome.
I got a few little notes here, but what things I want to talk about. But if you want to talk about the coffee cup, well, we moved there in, I can't remember what year it was.
74.
Huh?
74.
Yeah, 74. We had it for 13 years, and our daughter had it for 14. We got there, it wasn't much of a coffee cup, was it? We got in, and first thing we had to do was, the woman that had it, about all she served was hamburgers and pie. And Carol, she was working on Deming at that time, and her sister came in and said, "You're working hard down here, why don't you go buy that coffee cup?" I mean, it was a Martinson's drive-in at that time. And so we looked at it and got the money to buy it. Well, I don't know what we was buying. We was buying a lot of work. Because it wasn't set up for the hospital, what she wanted. And I remember the first time we opened up, had everything going, we got best we could, and ready, I guess we're ready to open up in the morning then. Then Carol got to thinking, well, I haven't got any bread. Where are we going to get bread at? Well, we called up the guy that delivered the bread. He said, I'll bring you some up in the morning. Then she thought about, well, we haven't got any change in the cash register. And Susie, she rounded up some change for us someplace. That first morning was kind of she worked out at Deming, and all the people the loggers worked in there, came in, and the first morning they were all up to our place. They had a little grill. The grill was 2x4. It wasn't very big to make pancakes and all that breakfast stuff, but she muddled through it somehow, and so that's the way it was. And then we had to, well, I guess I better leave the rest of it to Carol.
Well, I got to tell you, first of all, I had never worked in a restaurant in my life until 6 months before, and one morning this gal called me that I knew, and she said, "Carol, why don't you come up and cook with me?" And I said, "I've never cooked in a restaurant." "Oh, it's easy," she said. You'll get it. So I went to work, and the first morning, well, the light company, they always stopped, and the phone company always stopped. Well, the light company guys came in, and we never ate out. We just couldn't afford it, so we never ate out. And so one of the guys ordered 2 over easy. I bring him out 2 eggs over easy, and he said, "What's this?" And I said, "Well, that's what you ordered." He said, "No." I said, "Hash browns and toast come with it too." Well, I had no idea. So these guys taught me how to cook. I mean, actually they did, because I really didn't know anything about it. But I really liked it, and I mean, I started making cinnamon rolls there and pie. They'd never had any of those things before. And I worked there for 6 months, and then he said my sister came, and we were really busy one day, and I was all by myself, and she said, "If you're going to work this hard, why don't you get your own place?" So we did. But the customers were wonderful. I mean, they all came. I mean, it was like mass exodus from Deming. They all came up there, and I got to tell you, the guy that I worked for, he was horrible to work for, and he would give you a half an hour at night to clean up. You didn't clean the grill because there wasn't time, and you didn't fill anything up, or you didn't vacuum unless you could do it in a half an hour. And so I told him, I said, "Well, we're gonna get by that little restaurant up the road," and he said, "Yeah, you can have the run over from our place." Overflow. And I thought, "You arrogant little poop." I mean, I was really upset with him. And when everybody came up there, I didn't even feel bad at all, because, that's the way it was. But the people were wonderful. They were just absolutely wonderful to help us. And another thing, too, is the people who worked for us. I mean, we had the cream of the crop. I mean, from the young girls to older ladies that started. I mean, some of them worked there for 25 years. I mean, they worked through us and Kathy, and when we retired, they had a going away party for us over at Johnson's in Ferndale. And the people, they all wrote down how long they'd worked there, and they totaled 151 years. Wow. And they were so good. I mean, we had one guy, people that stopped there, and we had this one girl, she was 15 years old, and she was so good. She was just so good. And he told me one time, he said, "If your food had been bad and your prices horrible," he said, "we would have come for her." Because that's the way they were. It was like they thought of it as their place. It was home, and we were their family, and that's the way the whole thing worked. So, like one time, our son was 13 when we went there, and he waited, and Bill, they did that, and I cooked at night, and one time all these women came from the pottery place in Everson, or Van Zant. And there was 22 of them. I'll never forget, the place was full. And Bob was working by himself, and I felt so sorry for him. He started crying because, he was just overwhelmed. And these women said, "Don't cry, honey, we'll help you." They went back and helped him get the salads, and they helped him deliver, and they helped him clean the plates. It was just that kind of a place. It was like, I think everybody felt like they were part of it. So it wasn't just us. It was everybody that helped to make it what it was. Yeah.
So what time of the day did you guys open?
We opened at 5:30. I went to work at 2:30 every
That was
morning.
one thing we tried to figure out. Well, if we got this place, we should close down one day a week, just for.
Sunday.
Anyway, well, he thought, well, we'll close Monday. We said, we can't do that because the loggers come in. Well, we can close Sunday. Well, that's the busiest day of the week. So finally, we ended up 7 days a week, and that was it. We didn't have much time off.
When we first started, I was the only cook, and I worked 90 hours a week, and I was so tired. Bill, he didn't help me cook at first, And he said, I feel like I'm going to have to prop you up to keep you going, because he said, someday you're going to fall over. I was so tired. And so I said, well, then come and help me. So he did, and we hired a couple of waitresses. And anyway, then Kathy, our daughter, she said, Mom, you can't keep doing this. So she decided she would work 3 mornings a week. And I mean, that was great. And then, you know, at first we didn't have any money, so we felt like we had to do it all ourselves. We couldn't afford to hire anybody. But, you know, as time went on, we got so we could afford people. And so Kathy says, you guys have got to go on a vacation. So we went to Reno for our first trip ever down there. I was so worried every minute I was gone. I kept thinking, oh, it's breakfast. What are they doing? Are they too busy? And it's dinner time. I know, how is it going to go? And we got back, and here was this big sign in the back window, and I went to work the next morning. It said, Kathy's Coffee Cup. They didn't miss me a bit. After that, I mean, I never worried, not 1 minute when we were gone. We just knew it was taken care of, so, yeah.
I was doing carpenter work, working for another carpenter. And when I first started, I said, well, I can just keep working and be there at nights and stuff. And that didn't work for about a week. I had to quit because there was so much work to do around that place there. Then she taught me how to cook a little bit. She'll have to tell them about the time I made the hamburgers.
Oh, gosh. We had this guy come, and he was going to go up to Mount Baker, and we were really, really busy, and he ordered six hamburgers to go, 6 cheeseburgers, and we had a big cover that we'd put over them to melt the cheese, and so Bill was doing the hamburgers, and
I got all the hamburgers
yeah,
parts fixed in the hamburger
yeah,
patty. Stuff.
and he wrapped them up and sent them on their way, and took this lid off, and here was all the hamburgers. He hadn't put any in any
They were
of the
going to Mount
hamburgers.
Baker.
Oh, that guy never let him live it down. I mean, they would be full of people, and he'd holler, Bill, put the hamburgers in this time. So it was,
Oh, I tried.
yeah, yeah. And the kids, we got to tell you about we first went there. There was no indoor bathroom. It was a tiny little place. It had 4 little booths, and that was all, and no bathroom inside. And so the little kids, every little kid that came there had to go to the bathroom. And we had one out behind the restaurant, and it was like an old outhouse, but it had a flush toilet in it. And the kids thought that thing was just the most wonderful thing in the world, so they all had to go. So then we opened up in May. And 1st of July, Bill started to build on. And he would work all day building, and then he'd help me cook at night. So, and Ike Halverson was a good friend of ours. You probably all know him. And him and Bill worked all night long. The night that he built on the bathrooms, and then he built on to the kitchen part and the back room part. And there was a partition between, and we had this little tiny grill, like this was all we had. And we got a new grill, and they worked all night long. They tore that partition out and moved that grill in. The next morning, we never missed a beat. The next morning, Kathy opened up, and we were still going. And when we took the old carpet up off the floor, they worked all night and got that up, and, you know, he was wonderful to help us. But he was Bill's golf partner, so he would come and he'd say, can Billy come out and play? As soon as he gets through helping with breakfast. But, you know, we just had, it was a good 13 years. It was work. I will never say it wasn't the hardest work I've ever done, but I loved every minute of it, and I missed it. And I mean, with Kathy working, she took it over for 14 years, and she worked for me or us, and I worked for her, and then her and Susie did catering for 5 years, and then they went back and had the Carol's Girls Coffee Cup for 5 years. So I was there 37 years. I worked all together in that restaurant, and I loved every minute of it. I did. So, yeah.
Okay, now I know you both have other interests, other things that you've done. There's other community events that you're involved in.
Well, we've always been involved in church. I mean, we joined Emmanuel Lutheran Church in 1963, and, we both served on everything that was to be done, but I still cook for the Wednesday night meals, and we quilt, both Bill and I. I mean, he threads the needles for all of us old ladies who can't see. Church has been a part of our life, and the people there are, I can't even tell you how good they've been to us. They are our lifeline, I guess. They worry about you and they look after you, and they're just, anybody who doesn't have a church life, I think they're missing something, because it's...
What is the Wednesday night dinner?
Well, we started out having it, and people, we just say $3 a person, and it's a full meal every Wednesday night. And the money was going to go to send kids to camp. Well, our church has gotten smaller and smaller. We don't have kids anymore, but this year we had to raise money for our septic system. We had to put a new one in, so we've donated to that. And it's just a great get-together for, we have the choirs meet, and the kids come for after-school program, and the bells meet. So everything happens on Wednesday night, so they just start out with a meal, and then everybody goes their way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the quilt project, I got involved with it last year, and I'm really having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
I had heard about it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give a little bit of background on that?
Well, it's Lutheran World Relief is what we do. We make quilts for, and we make them all but 2 out. We don't do it July and August of every year. We take 2 months off, but we ship them in May and we ship them in October, and we make also school bags and layettes and school kits that the women put together. And today we actually put the school kits together, and we have shipped. Well, we usually ship about 240 or something like that quilts in May, and it ends up anyway over 400 usually a year that we ship. That goes all over the world. They ship them to a distributing place back east somewhere, and from there it just they just ship them wherever they're needed. So it's a wonderful project. I gotta tell you, one time they did a video thing of one quilt, and it was all different, pretty bright blocks, and they traced that quilt all the way to its destination. And when it got to Africa, where it was, they were distributing these. The men come first, they always get the first of everything, and the women have to stand back. Well, this lady, she stood back until she, they were to the end, and she got this quilt. She took it home, and it showed her that night with 6 of these little beautiful brown-eyed babies smiling under this quilt. And I tell you, it warms your heart to know that you've done something that's helped people that much. It's far-reaching. You never know where it's going to go.
Right. I know someone told me that the last bunch of quilts that were sent out ended up going to Nepal. Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible over there right now.
Yeah. And I thought, that's just wonderful. It wasn't just the quilts; it was the other things that had been put together also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. And I know that you are a gardener.
Oh yeah, I love to garden. My corn was this much higher than my head this year. It was beautiful. I love to garden, and I love to do flowers, and I love to can, and I love to cook. I mean, I guess I'm passionate about things I do, but I really, really enjoy those things. And the girls planted my garden this year, and I can hoe because I don't have to been down to weed, but I can take care of that by myself. And but I'll tell you one thing, if it wasn't for our kids, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. We wouldn't be home because we've got 4 kids, and I know we all think our kids are the greatest, but I really do. I do think ours are. I mean, they help us. Susie we have 2 kids and a granddaughter that lives on our property. They have their own places, but they're just there all the time. We see them, 3 of them we see every Monday, and our son brings the paper every day, and we just feel so blessed that we have.
Okay, and yeah, the golf. Bill, I understand, and I've heard that you do enjoy golfing.
Well, I used to.
You used to.
Till
Well,
my legs got so I couldn't golf anymore. But I wasn't a good golfer. But I enjoyed it.
But you both have hole-in-ones.
Oh yeah, I got 4 holes in 1, but that was mostly luck.
It's always luck.
okay. So the different places that you live, like you say, you come from Custer area, and that your parents were farmers, and you were up on the Mount Baker Highway, and then when you got together, then where did you settle that first bit of time?
We settled right in Mosquito Lake Road
Okay.
for first, about 3 years.
Something like that.
What year was that?
We got married in 1947, and yeah, we lived there. When we was going to get married, I was only 16 when we got married, and
Got to get him young and train him.
I always told him if I didn't grow up to be anything, it was his fault. But just a side thing, when we was at the coffee cup, one day, I know he and I had been working on something, and I didn't know what. And he said, "Come on out, I got to show you something." So I went outside, and here was this big sign, Carol's Coffee Cup, with lights on it. And he said, "I told you if you stuck with me, I'd put your name in lights someday."
Well, I did.
But anyway, he had on his folks lived on this farm on the Mosquito Lake Road, and there was this old bunkhouse that was on there, and they had made a garage. They'd taken one end out of it and made a garage out of it, and so they put an end back in and a window in that part, and put partition. So all it had was a kitchen and a living room and a bedroom, no bathroom. That was outside. And I looked at that and I thought, this is where I'm going to live. But, a friend of ours came and we wallpapered it and painted it, and we moved in, and it was great. It was no insulation whatsoever in it. I thought we'd freeze to death the first winter we was there, but, we survived. And then he went to work down in Oregon. Friends of ours that were down there, there was about 5 or 6, one of the men that had gone down to work, and so they wanted him to come down, so we moved down there, which was, it was awful. I've never lived in town in my life, and it was, it was a real experience, but I wanted to come home so bad, and so I told him, he wanted another baby, and I said, "Not down here." I said, "If you go home, I will." So I always said that Susie was our bride
That's what we got.
baby because he broke his leg and didn't have anything to do down there. So we moved back to Washington and back to here where we're at now. But yeah, so that's the only place we've lived other than we lived in Bellingham 2 years and Oregon 2 years, and other than that, we've been out here.
Okay, so where Carol's Coffee Cup was there a house there?
No.
So then you lived on the Mount Baker Highway there, where you're
Right.
at now.
Well, we moved a trailer, a mobile
Trailer.
home in there.
Okay.
We bought a single wide trailer, 14 by 38, I guess it was, finally. Because it was better to be right there instead of
Yeah.
travel back and forth.
Traveled back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I kind of vaguely remember there being a mobile there.
It was a pink and white striped drive-in. That was the first thing we did was paint it. It was this lady that owned it, her and her husband. I mean, they really didn't want it as a restaurant. It was just kind of a diversion for them, I think, because they had a pinball machine in it and they had a jukebox machine there, and she wore big fuzzy slippers, and she ran it by herself, and she had a sewing machine in there and little plants all over the place that she'd started, and I mean, it was just nothing. And they had that little tiny grill, but we found little signs that she'd put in the window, "Gone for hamburger, be back in half an hour." I mean, she bought like a pound of hamburger at a time. It was crazy. I know one guy, he told us, he used to come all the time, and he said one time he came and he wanted a piece of pie. She had one piece of pie left, and he said, "Well, I'll take it." And she brought it out and she started eating it, and she ate half of it before she got to him, and he just couldn't believe what was happening. I mean, that's the way it was. And the neighbors would come. There was like 2 couples that came almost every night just to visit, and so the first thing we did was get rid of this pinball machine and that business, and these 2 couples still came every night, and they would stay. We would close at 8 o'clock, and they would stay till about 9, and then she'd say, one of them would say, "Now you get to bed, you've got to get up early." Well, yeah, I got to get up at 2:30. I had to go to work at 2:30, so it was always just that way. People, in the summer especially, and especially Sundays. Sundays were always just, they were awful from the way you opened until you would close. But people would sit on the hoods of their car, and visit. I mean, they didn't seem to mind that they had to wait, because it was just a time to see friends, and they always knew somebody that was there. Mm-hmm. So it was, yeah.
We moved there at a good time of it, because at that time the Canadian dollar was worth about 6 or 7 cents more than, and the Canadians came over and bought everything that was for sale up Maple Falls, Glacier, that area. They just bought that property up like mad, and so it was a pretty good. There was a lot of money around in Washington County at that time, up there.
And we had the best Canadian friends. I mean, some of them I never did know their name, but we knew everything about them. You knew their kids, where they lived and what they did, and their dog's name, but we never knew their name, because I'm terrible with names. But man, we had some good Canadian people that came that we really liked.
I'll have to tell you about when we bought the place. The Martinsons, Tony Martinsons, you probably know it. Some of you might know him. They had a big German Shepherd. Well, they had some people that came up from down in Skagit County. He found this dog in the ditch, and it had been shot. So he brought it back, got it fixed up again. He brought it up and gave it to the Martinsons. So we bought the coffee cup, and the dog was there. It was just running loose there. The dog came with a restaurant because they didn't want the dog, and he was a great dog. He just, at the daytime, he didn't bother anybody, just greet them, but after we turned the lights out, and anybody walking in the lot there, he was there.
He was the guard.
He protected that restaurant. That was his home.
We said we bought Bullet in the restaurant and came with him because he was a special dog. He was so good. Yeah, I said he was a reincarnated lover, because every time, if Bill would even touch me, he would go, "Oh, oh, oh." Like that. And any salesman, he would not let them get close to me. He'd
Wow.
get between us. Never do anything, but he'd just get between us. He'd say, "You're not touching her." So he was pretty special dog.
Okay, so are all your children in this area still?
Two
Within
of them.
10 miles of us.
Yeah. One lives in Bellingham, one on the Aldridge Road, and then two of them right on our property, so.
Okay, I hear once in a while you talk about gatherings.
Oh, yeah. Every Monday. The kids come, well, three of them come home every Monday, and we have, we play cards. We start at 9:30 and we play till noon, and then I fix lunch, and then our granddaughter comes with her two little ones, and then we play again in the afternoon. And Susie comes over every Friday, and our other daughter comes out every other Friday, so we get to see, and our son we get to see every day, so, yeah. We
So-
are.
So
I've
your
said we're
life is
blessed.
full of blessings.
It is very full of blessings.
Wasn't for them kids, I don't know what we'd do, so.
Okay, as the years have gone by and the changes in the area have happened, have you noticed differences in the community itself?
Well, yeah, there used to be more community things, you know. I mean, when I was a little kid, the neighbors were all just like, if something happened to one person, everybody joined in, and you know, and I don't know, it just isn't like that anymore. People don't go to visit other people, and I mean, there's a lot of people that help out, you know. That probably, I don't think it's even as good as it used to be, but yeah.
Well, I know that you're involved with your church, you've mentioned it, and there's different events that happen there. Can you talk a little bit about some of them?
Well, we have, in the spring, we have, let's see, what did we just have? I can't even think.
The strawberry.
Strawberry Social, which a lot of you probably have come to. It's a fundraising that, after the expenses, we give all that money away to the different charities in our community. The food bank is always one of them, but we usually try to pick one new one each year. We usually give it to 4 different things, so we ended up usually giving them between $400 and $500 a piece, you know, and that's a good community thing. And then we have our fall festival, which is coming up October 14th, and that's what we use to, you know, keep us going all year and to give to different things. But it's a big fundraiser for our church too. Yeah, and then the Wednesday night meals, you know, we have people from Bellingham. There's several from Bellingham that come out that are not, you know, concerned with the church, but and sometimes, you know, people can't pay. It doesn't matter. We just have them come. So.
Oh, you touched on canning. Now, you mentioned one time that you were canning certain things that were going to go for the dinners.
Yeah, I canned 50 quarts of beans this year that'll go for the dinners, and I froze 7 gallons of corn that off of our place, you know, that I'll give to the dinners. And then from the Strawberry Social, there's usually strawberries left over, so I always make jam for that. And blueberries, I always try to get the blueberry. They have some down at church I pick and have so we can. Sometimes we have pancake breakfast, so I make blueberry sauce for that. And yeah.
So that community itself is home.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It's family. It's not just
Absolutely.
your kids,
Well, I
but
think that's-
the community.
Yeah.
There's always Norwegian families there, so. And I don't know how a Dutchman got mixed up in there, but he did.
Oh, they took a few Scandinavians. A bunch of us.
We
Swedes
accept
get to-
everybody.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah, it's a pretty wonderful community to live in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So is there any questions that anyone out in the audience have?
I want to know how many pies that in the average day or whatever that you would need to keep going, because I remember Kris mentioned to me about how many at some times, and I was amazed. Can you touch on that?
Well, Wilda Lockwood, I don't know if any of you know her, but oh, she made the most wonderful cream pies. And then, so we then had a fruit pie maker and a cream pie maker, but every Sunday she would make 14 pies and deliver them, you know, in the morning. And then sometimes by 3 o'clock we'd be out of pies. And they just, I mean, people came just for pie. I would call her, and she'd say, "Sure, I'll have some more down there." In about 2 hours, she'd have 8 more pies. How she did this, I have no idea, but she did. And oh, people they just loved her pies. They were so good. It was
That's
just
thick.
yeah,
Green
they
pie.
were wonderful. And Emma Howam, a lot of you may know her. She baked until she was in her 80s for us, and my sister baked, and Joanne Smith baked, and you know we just have had such good bakers. And I made cinnamon rolls. I guess I started when I was in Deming, and I've been 44 years. I still make them for a restaurant, so that's my passion. I love them. I love to make them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. And your specialty in gardening, you do a lot of flowers and things
Oh,
too.
yeah. Love flowers. Love flowers. Like last night, we didn't have anybody, no one had signed up for flowers, so I told Clara Slovic, come down and pick dahlias. So she had beautiful flowers in church today. And I usually try to have flowers so I can have them for church all the time. Glads, I love glads. And, yeah. So,
Wonderful.
I remember Carol's guest book, and especially there were a lot of Europeans who would come up to Mount Baker, and if somebody was from out of town, someone would bring out the guest book for them to sign, and
Right.
And where in Europe, if there were 2 empty seats at a table, well, you didn't wait till the other people were done. You just sat down with them, and that was the case up there too. People would say, "Well, can I sit here?" You know, and so you became friends for a while with them, and that was kind of fun.
Kathy did, after we left there, she took this globe, and she took the little tiny stick pins, and she put them everywhere on the globe where people had come from on the visitor book. Oh my gosh, in Germany and Sweden and in those areas, it was just stuffed full because people had come.
Australia.
We had even from Russia, and we had a lot from Japan and China, and a lot from like South America, and it was great. It was just great to see. There was one gal, she came from Australia, and she invited us to come and stay with her. She said she was from Canada,
the country next to Australia.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's where she was from. She said, she was a teacher, and she said, "You come and I'll take time off and I'll show you all over." I always wished we could have done that, but didn't.
So do you still hear from some people?
Oh yeah, yeah, and the girls, you know, I mean, we still get Christmas cards and Facebook stuff from the girls that work there, and I just can say, in all the time we was there, in 13 years, I fired one girl, and that's all. And she was awful. We put up with her for a little while. She'd come to work, and then her mom was going to come and get her, and she'd say, have the girls say, "Oh, tell Mom I'll bring you home." Well, then, you know, they got sick of that. But one day she came on a Sunday, which people were standing outside waiting, and she came an hour late, and she'd been tubing down the river. And I said, "Call your mom and have her come and get you. You're done." You know, and that was hard because the gals that was working had to stay till we got somebody else. But you know, I think that's a pretty good record. To only one out of all those people.
Okay, now if you started the restaurant in '74, there was quite a few years there that you had to have been doing some other things. Besides being home with the kids, did you have other?
Well, the kids was all gone but Bob, but he was 13 when we came there, so No, we golfed. I mean, we would golf. Monday was our day off, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday the mornings. But Monday we would go shopping, and I was so tired. You know, I'd get up at 1:30 and start at 2:30, and then I took an hour off in the afternoon and had somebody come in and cook, and I went out and took a nap, and went back to work again. And Sundays, I mean, like, he did the payroll, but I put the money in, and the girls would clean, but it didn't seem to suit me, so I always vacuumed after them and did all my ordering, and I didn't get to bed till midnight, you know. It was long, long days. So Monday we'd go shopping, and Bill would go into the bank and whatever, and they'd say, "Where's Carol?" "Oh, she's out in the car." My mouth wide open. They must have thought this is what I looked like, because they never
Got there
ever
and
saw
all you
me.
see with a big mouth.
I was so tired. And then we'd come home and put the stuff away, and he'd say, "Come on, let's go golfing." Ugh. But we did. And
We golfed over to Everson for
Yeah.
of course.
yeah, and we did. I'd get a half hour to sleep after I'd got off work in 8 hours, and then he'd say, "Come on, let's go." So away we went. I felt like an old doll that you drag around by the arm, you know. But I love golfing too, so we did. We had a lot of fun. We went on a lot of little 3-day golf trips, you know, and just really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, personally, my favorite pie was a sour cream raisin.
Oh, yes.
The what?
The sour cream raisin.
Yeah. That and date nut. Oh my gosh, if we ran out, people were upset. They were just upset on Sunday if they didn't have those two kinds of pie, you know, so.
What was the big one that's, what's his name?
Emma?
Huh?
Emma?
No.
No. Wilda?
Wilda.
Oh, well, the date nuts one.
Date nut cream, yeah.
Oh my gosh, they loved
It was
that
about
pie.
that thick. And,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you have any other things on your notes that you have forgotten?
I don't think so. I got it so wound up here, I
yeah.
probably couldn't read it if I did.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Well, we had 12 grandkids, and one of our grandsons was killed in an accident, and then we had 22 great-grands, and we have one great-great-grandchild, so I don't think there's anything else that I missed.
Something, since we were talking about pies.
Yes.
Well, the pies were just totally amazing, but the other thing that was very cool about Carol's, and it's unique, even though we're still talking about back when I was a teenager, so a long, long time ago, was we had hand-dipped ice cream cones and homemade milkshakes. And that was, at the end of the shift, that was kind of our little go-home treat, was
Okay.
we'd have to dip into the ice cream for a little cone
Ice
for
cream
the ride,
cones?
drive home after work. But the milkshakes and the hand-dipped ice cream cones, you know, almost anywhere else, it was all out of the machine. And it's just not the same. It's not the same at all. So anyway, they weren't the most fun to make and have to clean up after, but they were worth it because they were so delicious.
Oh, yeah, we did, and it was good ice cream. Well, we used to give these little tiny ice cream cones. I mean, there's little bitty things we'd give them to the kids, and then a lot of the older people thought they should have them too. And we'd have people stop. We had it was a drive-in when we first opened, when we closed that, but they'd come to the window and ask for these little ice cream cones, and of course we always give them to them, but yeah.
What was Larson's girl's name?
Larson.
Oh, what's her name? That used to give, what's her name? Ice.
Oh,
Oh, to bullet?
yeah, wasn't Larson.
Linda, not Linda, the other one.
Yes, Linda. Compton, Linda Compton.
She come to work and no matter how busy it was, she had to get a ice cream cone per bullet, the dog. And she said he likes chocolate the best. So she'd come in and get a ice cream cone, take it out the bullet, and he'd happier.
He'd take it so careful by the top, then pick it out, and then he'd eat the ice cream first and then the cone.
Then so she'd go to work then.
That was me, Bill.
Oh, that was her.
She's Linda.
Yeah, hi. Oh my gosh, hi. Oh, of course I had to mention the ice cream, right?
Of course you did.
And those little cones, that's what I
That
was
is Linda?
talking about.
Yes.
They had these wonderful little baby cones. And so that was sort of our end of the night. We were finished for the evening cleaning up and, marked down our time and whatnot. And then before we went home, we'd look at each other like, how about when a little baby cone could arrive? And the thing was, we didn't need it because the other thing everyone should know is Bill and Carol fed their waitstaff, their help so well. They would cook us our special meal after we closed for the night, before we dive in and do the evening cleanup. Bill and Carol, despite having slaved away all day, no matter how hard or busy or long their day had been, they would actually ask each one of us what we wanted for dinner, and they would cook up our, whether it was fish and chips or a burger, or sometimes we just have a salad, but they always wanted us to be able to go sit down. It was like a family, and we would sit down and have our dinner together. Then after we were all full and satisfied, and of course the best food you could get in the county, then we'd roll up our sleeves and then we'd get our nightly cleaning done before we headed home with our dessert, our baby cone in hand.
But Linda, one of the reasons we did that was because you girls never got time for breaks because it was too busy, and there were, you could only have so many people in that little place to work. So you worked steady through that, and we just decided you had to have a break. And we'd make them sit down, and some of the girls wanted to go out on dates afterwards, and they did not want to sit down. I mean, they wanted to get going, but we made them sit because I just felt like, you need this time. So.
Yeah, and it was very pleasant. I mean, it wasn't like sitting with your boss.
Yeah.
It was like sitting with your family. And most of us worked together for a long time. There were not many. I just can't even think of anybody who was short-lived except for the one girl you fired, and I know who that was. I'm not going to say the name. But anyway, yeah, it was so cozy. It was so comfortable.
Yeah.
And no one can really understand it unless you were one of Carol and Bill's girls, and then you'd know exactly what I was talking about.
Well, we felt that way about you guys. You were just like our kids, and we loved you. Still do.
We could tell. We knew.
Yeah.
We loved you back. 75 when I started at Bill and Carol's. And I started because Ike Halverson, who Bill mentioned, was helping with the add-ons, and I think Ike may have told my mom that they could use help with somebody. They need somebody up there to just wash dishes. Mm-hmm. So I actually went up initially. I wasn't driving yet. I think my mom had to drive me there to see if Carol and Bill would like me to wash dishes. So I started washing dishes on the weekend. And Carol, you're right, they were really long shifts. I mean,
Yeah.
we couldn't stop because we had to keep going, but it was never, like, no one ever complained. We all just dove in and wanted to make sure that things ran smoothly. But best bosses in the world, I'll tell everyone. And being such great bosses, then back to what I said, there wasn't much turnover. So when you work with that closely with a group, you do become more than just coworkers. You become family, and especially when you have that just that environment where everybody cared about each other. We'd worry sick about Carol not getting enough rest. And Bill, you were such a trooper. You made the best fish and
You're a
chips
trooper.
for me.
Well, they had some good girls.
I don't know if you ever heard that advertisement for Albertson's Supermarket. It was a song they used to sing that it's Joe Albertson's Supermarket, but the produce department is mine. Bill would sing that, and he'd say it's Carol's coffee cup, but the pancake department, the hash brown department is mine.
Did you tell them about the outfits the girls wore when you first started?
Oh, yeah. Remember the dresses you kids wore?
Yep, my mom sewed mine.
Yeah. There was, how many, 4 of you?
It
You
was
and Mary Lou and
it was
Delinda
Karen
and
Anderson
Linda.
who came up with the idea.
Yeah.
Karen was a seamstress, accomplished seamstress by the age of 16. And so she suggested, and Carol was totally for it, that we get dresses. And they were
Long dresses.
yes, and they were like calico prints, and they were kind of jumper style. And so everyone's dress was different. The style was the same. I think we shared the same pattern.
We did.
But we got to choose our own fabric, and I wasn't much of a sewer. In fact, I hate it to this day. But my mom, thankfully, sewed my Carol's dresses. I'm sure I had at least 2. The blue one was my favorite.
Yeah.
I have to tell you about the time that hunting season opened up, and Delinda was working that morning. It was right after we opened, and all of a sudden she came in the back room. She was crying. She said, "I can't go out there." Well, there's so many guys that all looked alike, and started giving her a bad time. And I said, "So just go out there and tell them, and I'm doing the best I can, and that's it." And she went back out there, and she was okay again. She thanked me afterwards. She said, "You helped me out." She said, I could do it. So, but it was just crazy. She didn't know what to do. She was just lost.
Well, when you talked about the people who were so good, they did have to wait because we cooked everything from scratch, everything. And like turkey dinners, we would cook 2 turkeys twice on Saturday and Sunday, and we would run out. But one time, this guy he came up and he was complaining because he had to wait too long. And one of our really good customers was sitting at the counter right next to the check stand, and I was a woman, and he started saying, I hate to come here because it takes so long. Well, she just jumped on him like an old banty rooster, and I tell you, she told him, she said, "If you don't like it, don't come back." She said, "These people cook everything from scratch. You don't have anything that you get in a hurry, and if you don't like it, don't come back." And she followed him all the way outside, just yakking at his ear. So, and that's the way it was. They knew they had to wait when they came there. They weren't going to get anything really fast, but I always said I worked best when I was 3 orders behind because that's the way you did. But, people would come back and talk to us, and they wanted to just visit. And you had people lined up outside and somebody standing there talking to you, but we always did, and I guess they didn't realize what pressure you were under, but they felt that comfortable, that they could just come and visit with us. So people would ask for some strange things, I'll tell you. We had one guy that you probably all know, but I'll mention. Anyway, he wanted me to make an oyster omelet. Oh, I did, and I told him, I said, don't you ever tell anybody you had that here because I'll never make it again. And we had one guy that said he wanted us to touch a match to his oysters. I mean, they were like raw when you sent them out, and it was awful. And we had one kid that was a friend of our son's, and he wanted raw pancakes. And when they was just set so you could just turn them, and then you took them off, and they were running inside, the batter was running. I kept thinking, oh, if people see him eating that, they're going to think this is what we serve. But he did. And one waitress, I remember she told him, it doesn't matter if you want something, just ask her, she'll do it for you. You know, and sometimes they were kind of strange orders, but we tried to please.
Remember the burnt toast?
First
I was
what?
thinking about her the other day.
Who?
Burnt toast.
Burnt
Miss
Oh,
McGinnis, Miss
yeah.
McGinnis, the burnt toast.
yes.
It had to be black.
Yes,
Toast
and
that- so-
the
and you
black
always-
smoke would just curl out
Yeah.
of the thing.
I could still smell her order.
Miss McGinnis, I don't know if any of you went to school. Did you have her? Yes. Well, our Kathy, our oldest daughter, she was her first, second generation, her and Lawrence Ambrose, because I had her in school too. And she used to come to Deming when I worked down there, and she'd come every morning for breakfast. And so I asked her, I said, what do you think about us starting a restaurant? And she said, I think it's a wonderful idea. So she always told everybody after that I taught myself to cook, but she taught me how to make money. She was a math teacher in school. But she was there for every morning, in the morning for breakfast and every night for lunch, for dinner. She came. Every meal she ate up there. This is really exciting to see Linda because she was one of our very favorite people that worked there, and I just hadn't seen her for a long time. So this is exciting. Yeah.
I have a personal memory of Carol's coffee cup. Coming up, Marv and I, with his mother in a wheelchair, and all four of our children,
Oh my.
and getting taken to that back area,
Mm-hmm.
and we had so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a party,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like home. It felt like someplace that you wanted to go again.
You were out on the deck there then?
Yeah, out on the deck. Yeah, it was a lovely day, and the flowers.
Yeah, it was
You
beautiful.
know, it was
that day.
beautiful back there.
Yeah.
Didn't you have
Rhododendrons.
Because that's why she wanted to go, was because of the rhododendrons. She really wanted to be back there, and
Yeah,
it
Good to
was,
hear things like that.
yeah.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, you know, when you put so much of yourself into a place, and you're living there, and you're working there, and it's yourself that you put out, you don't realize what a gift it is that you're giving to the community.
Well, you hear people say, you know, I worked someplace for 20 years and I hate it. I can't even imagine working someplace when you didn't like what you were doing. You know, it's I can honestly say I loved everything I did there. It was really hard work, but it was worth it. Just the friends that we met, you know, along the way. And I don't know how people could afford it because, you know, we never ate out a lot. And we'd have, especially the skiers, you know, they would eat on their way up to Mount Baker, and, you know, they'd have their families, and then they'd stop again at night on their way home, and like, holy cow, you know, this is a lot, so.
And how much was coffee when you first opened?
I think
For
it
a
was like,
hamburger?
probably, I don't know if it was 50 cents. I know hamburgers were 59 cents when we went there. Yeah, and the dinners were probably like $2.95, you know, and we tried to keep our prices down as low as we could. I just felt like, you know, I guess you're supposed to want to make a lot of money when you're in business, but I guess that wasn't our goal. It was just to please people, and they seemed to do that, so, yeah.
They're probably a little higher than that, so.
No, they weren't. I got our first menu.
No.
And cigarettes were 49 cents a pack. I remember that. And I used to buy Copenhagen, and I guess I always thought there was 10 rolls in a roll, 10 boxes in a roll. And so we sold it for 49 cents a box. And then I realized there was only 8 in there, and then we were selling it less than I paid for it. So it wasn't too good a deal. Yeah. But, you know, I was so happy when we quit smoking, because it was awful, because we had the fans back there, and, you know, it drew all that smoke back into the back end, and hot, it would be so hot. We had a thermometer in the window, and it got over 100 degrees, you know, and you're standing by a hot stove beside that. No, we just got rid of the thermometer.
Probably was a good idea.
Not the heat, but the thermometer we got rid of. Yeah.
I often think about when we bought that, if you tried to do that they'd run us out of the county. And
Think
we
so?
didn't have no permit to have a restaurant or anything. Just bought it, started fixing on it, and nobody said anything, word
Tell them
about
about the
it.
septic tank.
What?
Tell them about the septic tank.
Well, a lot of things on it wasn't right.
Yeah, but they didn't have any drain field whatsoever. They had a big barrel, wasn't it? A 50-gallon barrel.
Well, he had a septic tank out there, and he had it run into it wasn't a drain field. He just ran into this in, and then the truck road was back behind.
Right.
And if the barrel got too full, it'd run over and run on the road.
It did.
First time it got full, I thought, so I called him. And, oh, there's no drain field there, he said. Well, crying out loud, when they didn't
That
throw
was
us in
one of the
jail.
first things he had to do was put a septic tank and a drain field in, because we got a dishwasher. We had a home, just a little home dishwasher when we came there, and we went there in May, and the first log show, you know, was in first part of June. Well, here we thought we're 2 miles from Deming, so nobody's going to come up that far from the log show. Holy cow! I mean, what a shock! My sister came down to eat breakfast, and she never did get to eat. She washed dishes the whole time she was there, and we weren't prepared at all. I mean, people were just flocking in there, and here we had this little grill, and I had a little home grill that we cooked pancakes on. You know, well, what do you do with the whole restaurant full of people with those?
Well, they had a kitchen dishwasher in there, and they take an hour or so to
Oh yeah.
Right. To run.
We ran out of dishes, and Carol's sister was there, and her sister-in-law, and they had the sink full of, it wasn't very big, trying to get clean dishes, and didn't have enough clean dishes there, and it was a mess.
And Susan, your dad, he used to bring us change he worked at the tavern to clean the tavern, you know, and we'd run out of change, and he'd go get us change. I mean, this is how people were. I mean, it was just like there was part of it, you know.
Pennies.
Yeah.
He used to get them down there at the tavern when he cleaned the tavern. And he just,
And I always remember when I would be away at college or up in Alaska, you'd come back and Carol would just come out and give you a big hug. You know, you felt like, you know, you were welcome. So.
You were. We did that with people's anniversaries, and especially anniversaries. We'd always give them a piece of pie, and you know, and go out and we'd sing to them. Or if it was a birthday, we'd go sing to them. And I mean, I had so many people that. Well, your grandpa, he loved to come there, you know, and I always went out and give him a hug, you know, and all the old people. I loved old people, so. It's like our Bob when he was there, you know. I guess he's always loved old people. From the time he was a little kid, he would always go out and sit with the old people and visit with them, you know. And I think people appreciate that so much. It makes them feel special, you know. So. Yeah.
What was the first vehicle you bought together and what did it cost?
We bought together.
The
First car.
vehicle, first car.
I don't know, it was, what did we have? We had that old,
First car we bought in Oregon
I
together.
had a Plymouth, 33, had that already.
The
Then I
suicide
bought
doors.
I bought a 38 Chevrolet from a friend of mine. That was the first car.
How much?
But we bought a car
I
in
can't
Oregon.
remember, probably $150 or $100, I don't know.
Yeah. And that was a lot of money. We didn't have any money, you know. I can remember Bob, or Bill, our oldest boy, he said, I can remember Mom sitting at the kitchen table deciding, you know, how much to pay on the bills each month because, you know, Bill worked in a furniture store and, well, he logged first and then he worked in a furniture store and then he was a carpenter, but we had 4 kids and no insurance, you know. We never had insurance for any of our kids when they were born and you didn't spend anything frivolously. It was, you know, so we were,
Everybody was the same, Carol.
huh?
A lot of people were the same.
Well, yeah, everybody. I mean, I didn't think we were poor because I thought everybody was the same. You know, when I was a little kid, you know, we didn't have anything, but nobody else did either. So I just, I don't know,
When did you buy your house?
1958.
58 or 9.
Yeah. And it was 18 acres, and we paid $6,000 for it. But it was a dump, you know. I mean, it really was. Right away, we didn't have a bathroom inside, and didn't have a foundation, and had electric cords run through a hole in the wall. They, you know, to have it was awful. But we just started working, and it was. We'd buy so much lumber and build so much and pay for that and build something else. So it's kind of like the house that Jack built, but it's been good. I love our place.
Well, we've really appreciated the time that you've spent to come and share
Well, thank you. It's fun.
your
to-
memories and
It's fun to
jog
share,
the
right?
rest of us,
Yeah.
jog our memories too.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much for
Oh,
coming.
you're sure welcome. Thank you for having us.
Asking.